I heard about this. I didn't believe it.
We're live, by the way.
This is insane. And liquid nitrogen.
I want their leader brought here. I want him brought to me. I want the revolution crushed.
Instead of getting tattoos.
Liquid nitrogen branding? What does that do?
It's like ice. Instead of heat, it's ice. And it brands your skin.
Huh. Does stuff like tattoos become... Does the ruling on that change now that there's technology to remove that? Or
it's not ever going to
branding can't be removed, but I think...
Branding's permanent forever.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
what if your skin grows... I don't know about the freeze branding. I wonder if your skin grows over it or something happens.
I think you can get like skin grafts to change, but I don't think that's what
It's still changing the creation, though. You still have to go through a lot of processes to bring it back. It's never going to be the same.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. That was a weird intro.
It's okay. Harry's here.
Yeah.
That's all
Harry's
that matters.
here. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
What's going on, guys? Assalamu alaikum, nerds, ninjas, unicorns, and other assorted fantasy fairy tale things. How y'all doing?
What that was
Good
weird. Yes. He's back.
Good
He's
to
back.
see y'all again.
Good to see you too, man. It's good to see you, bro.
Good to see you guys too.
Hamza, you look the same, bro. You were gone for 2 months. I thought it was going to be something drastic, but you still look the same. Probably even better.
Well, this is what happens when you come back to the United States and get to use that optional treatment where you get to take an illegal immigrant baby and suck the lifeblood out of them to maintain your vitality. You know,
So
Muslim countries don't allow that kind of practice, so it's always nice to come home and get some rejuvenation.
What kind of things do you ever like come back here and then say like, oh man, I wish Indonesia had this? Like, I gotta like, if it was me, right, I would come here and I'd have like 10 filet-o-fish, like every order every day would be filet-o-fish because I love those.
I mean, we got McDonald's over here too.
No, I know, but do they have filet-o-fish though? I'm sure that it's got that.
Do.
I'm sure it's got some like wasabi and stuff all over it, bro. Do they eat wasabi?
It's not quite the same. I will grant you that. It's not quite the same.
People are crazy about the
all
bun.
the grocery stores with Dr. Pepper in them. So,
Yeah.
it's kind of like I don't really have motivation to come other than to see people and make money. That's about it. Sorry, America. I don't love you enough. No, I love America.
It's all right. You did
There's
your
a lot
time.
of great things about America.
But you don't see yourself moving back anytime soon. I think you found your niche and your comfort in the East.
I'm a wandering soul. I mean, who knows? Like, I was talking to my wife about it the other day and was like, what if we just moved to a Gulf country? Because I get paid no matter what. Like, what if I just moved, not to Dubai, that's where the rich people live, but even in the UAE, there's pretty affordable places to live.
Yeah.
And I could get a job as a security guard and still talk to you nerds on the side. It's like there's a lot of things I could do. I don't have to be here in Indonesia.
Yeah.
So I'm such a wandering soul. I spent most of the last 2 decades of my life more outside the United States than in it. And I would say the expat life is not for everybody, but for some people, it's the only life. And it doesn't mean that I don't care about America.
Yeah.
I do. But part of my adventures are for America. I like to bring back that experience back to the States, back to people, broadcast that back.
Did you hear about them trying to remove birthright citizenship? So, like, I don't think you can have like wait, that got shot down though, right?
I think it got shut down. I'm not 100% sure.
Got shut down.
Yeah. Good old Supreme Court came through. We can still have our anchor babies, Sheikh.
I don't know. I don't understand this whole anchor baby concept. Like, there's very few countries in the world where I could just go and make an anchor baby.
Right.
I'm a citizen now. Deal with it.
Well, yeah. Well, no. This is the idea of having an anchor baby. Yeah, is just so like, because my brother was born in Saudi Arabia, but he wasn't allowed to be a Saudi citizen, right? Um,
Yeah.
You too, right? You
yeah,
no, you're
no,
born.
I was born in India.
You were
But
born in India,
Mort is always saying I was born in Saudi Arabia because I was raised all my life. I was literally just sent to India for birth,
I see.
but because my dad doesn't trust socialism, he's a very like blue collar Republican. You know, he doesn't trust socialized medicine. But anyway, but I was I was in the deserts of Medina. My dad constructed the highways between Mecca and Medina. So my whole life. So whenever I talk about this stuff, more adds on to the story, and he just tries to make up huge lore out of it that really doesn't
I
exist.
felt for it. I've known you for this long. I wasn't sure exactly where you were born.
He just keeps adding stuff on it.
That's crazy.
But yeah.
But yeah, so when you came back to the States, you're here for a little
Yeah.
bit. You didn't feel like you're missing out on too much because you're a wandering soul. So you went back now, and you're having the time of your life.
I mean, I live in a nice area of Jakarta where everything's walkable. I have not owned a car for 3 years. So coming back to Dallas to do rideshare with the car that I'm renting felt weird. It was just like, oh, I gotta rent a car again, and I gotta pay for this thing, and I gotta drive everywhere, and I gotta worry about maintenance and not getting into an accident and dying. It's not fun. I don't like car ownership. Like that is the one thing. I still love guns. I love America. I love American people. I love the Constitution. I love American food. The one thing about America that I just absolutely cannot stand and don't want to come back to now is being forced to own a car.
Oh yeah.
Like if you forced me to own a car, I don't want to come back. I mean, I would. This is as far as Texas cities go. There are some very walkable parts of Texas cities in certain parts, but it's not a walkable state. That's the one thing I don't like about Texas. I like walking everywhere. I am healthier than most people I know, not because I'm hardcore, it's just because I walk everywhere.
That's smart.
That's it. And so like I see all these people. That's part of the reason why the Japanese live so long. They walk everywhere too.
They make it
Even the ones
expensive.
outside Tokyo.
It's very difficult to own a car over there too, passing that driver's test and everything. When you go to Japan, you see all their cars. You hardly see any like beaters and stuff. Everyone has nice cars, at least in Tokyo. I didn't go to the other parts of Japan, but all around Tokyo, all I saw was like, man, these guys, they really don't, not just living it up, they're maintaining everything really well. Like I didn't even see a dent on the car, man. It was that good. That they're just they're operating on a different level. It's weird to see such a organized society having so much difficulty with making babies. It's so weird because they're just so good at everything, but apparently not having babies. Sheikh has to give him a talk about the burdens and bees.
No, I think they've been in the past like 20 years. They've been living like sexually like very artificial lives, right?
They are.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's just become such a liability for them.
So someone, a native over there, one of our listeners, actually, I met over there in Japan, it kind of explained it to me that this society built its way through the 80s, 70s and 80s where Japan was really booming and hard work and work ethic was really part of their culture. And they said, you know what? Family isn't that important anymore. And so they started working harder, later hours, working into the weekends and stuff. And that took away the space for creating relationships, real human being relationships, not with anime characters, you know? And so they started like, oh, okay, well, how do we solve this problem? So they started reducing work hours. They've allowed certain companies have been more flexible with working from home and stuff. And so they're trying to do a whole new cultural shift in the society to allow space for personal relationships, because right now at its trajectory, Mexican immigrants will be welcome in Japan. They'll be ferrying them in You know what I'm saying? It's like it's downhill. It's at negative growth. Japanese citizenship.
Wow.
Yes.
They're dying faster than they're even making
Procreating.
babies. Their entire maternity wards are being shut down in hospitals. It's empty. That's how few.
That's kind of scary, bro.
It's wild.
It's dystopian.
Yeah, Japan's set to lose about half its population it's about to be set to cut in half by the end of the century.
Half. There's
Half.
properties all over Japan. If you guys have deep pockets, I don't even know if it's a good investment because who's going to rent it if people aren't living there, you know? But you can buy
You don't
property.
need deep pockets.
You don't. You don't need deep pockets. This is what I'm trying to say. It's like you could buy these homes that all you have to do is maintain. You just have to pay for the upkeep and
Wow.
rent them out, and they're yours. They're all over Japan like this. Properties, good properties too. They're not.
So
like,
what's their migration look like? I mean, what are people migrating to Japan because of that? Are they encouraging that now, or what?
Yeah, because they don't have a workforce. It's so hard to find employees that they just have to import them from Australia and different countries across the world. And after a while, people who have been working there for many years can apply for citizenship if they, and they have to know the language as well to pass the citizenship as well. So that's something that is a huge challenge. Japanese is not an easy language. I think it's a class 5, like Arabic, Russian, Chinese, and Japanese are the most difficult languages in the world to learn for English speakers. Yeah. So
I was talking to a woman who's a American Reaver who lives in Japan. Follow her on X, and I think she said something to the extent of it's very hard to get citizenship in Japan.
Yeah.
Not just because of the language thing. They want to keep it like the Gulf states keep it, where they're going to have a lot of people living in Tokyo that are going to run things and do stuff. But, the other thing too is they're really pushing hard for automation in Japan and Korea in particular.
Yeah.
Korea is basically the same boat. And, I have to say, I'm starting to see it here in Jakarta too, because Jakarta is basically it feels like Tokyo back in the 80s and 90s. That's what it feels like. It's got that same, we're going from traditional extended family to the corporation is your family now sort of vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of young people, and I mean, it's like that song. I think I'm turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese. I really think so. They're starting to see it here.
What song is this? I have not heard this song.
I think I'm turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese. I really think so. And with that, all of the Salafi channels and all the people who hate me on the internet are going to cut that out of context and use it forever to discredit me. Anyways, they will. They did it with Mufti Abulay. Naughty, 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 naughty. That's going to be my naughty, naughty now.
The Vapors.
Yeah, it's by the
Vapors,
1980.
yeah.
You turn Japanese. I really think so. Oh.
It's actually a song about choking your chicken. It's not actually about turning Japanese.
Oh, what the? That's weird.
That's what the song is actually about. But it considering that that's what a lot of Japanese guys are doing instead of actually making babies with an actual proper woman, it's
wow.
It kind of fits.
That defines a lot of what we're talking about.
it's just everything, yeah. And I see that, these like the Gen Zs are like in the United States, even a lot of dudes are virgins well into their 20s and 30s now. Just 20 years ago, if you were a virgin at 25, people thought you were weird. And now for a lot of the Gen Z guys, that's kind of becoming the norm, either by choice for religious reasons, because they're part of the whole tradcath, alt-right type stuff.
Yeah.
Or because they don't really have a choice.
Yeah, a lot of men don't want to take on responsibility, and it's wild to see that something that is biologically built into us is being removed. And I blame feminism for it as well, because the idea of a man being a caretaker of a woman is divorced from feminist ideas, right? So
Yeah.
what does a man do now that the woman is more responsible for herself and her upkeep? And like a man says, well, I have no purpose, so might as well just spend my life playing video games and watching TV.
And I can make all
And
the money I want for myself.
Turning
I don't need to make that much
Japanese.
Yeah.
money to support myself.
when I need a woman, I'll pay for it, and that's it.
Yeah, that's
And
kind of crazy.
it's wild. And I think that is the trajectory that Americans have to be really terrified of. Is this
Yeah.
at the fundamental level, these traditional values have completely disappeared. And yeah, while we see all these different male type figures, like I'm just going to choose like Andrew Tate as a typical example that everyone chooses, but there's many people like that who want to build masculinity and stuff, even though some of it's retarded. But that's just like a small outlier. Like those majority of the guys now see all that stuff as a headache. They don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of women are suffering because they're not able to find a man who's willing to take care of her or just be a partner.
Yeah.
Forget about being taken care of. Just be a partner.
It was
You
very
know?
much stigmatized, man.
Yeah.
Starting from the early 2000s and up until now. And when you say feminism, it's like the whole, the society itself was moving in that direction where it's not like it was labeled feminism. It was just embedded within everything.
Yeah.
Right? Where it was backwards to, be married. What the heck is marriage? I have to have a contract to be married. Like,
Yeah.
it kind of started with that too, right? Why can't I just live with this partner of mine? We have the same relationship, Why do we have to get the
Right.
government involved, right? So there was a lot of play on words with that. But I think obviously there's a lot of reversals trying to happen right now, but they're all very chaotic. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned Andrew Tate, there's like the Christian evangelicals, and you have like the Catholics, and you have like the Candace Owen crowd. They're all trying to bring this back, but there's too much noise on the outside for anything sustainable to happen.
Yeah.
Too many political things happening. So you have like hundreds of people trying to promote this family stuff and all that, but that's just like,
Yeah, feminism as in its institutional form through how work and everything has kind of manifested itself through society, where now you have to have two incomes supporting a household. That's forced. That is the expression of institutionalized feminism. How a man will see his wife as a burden if she's not working.
yeah,
Right.
These are the expressions
you're
of
not a good investment.
these institutions.
Right.
Like, so when you see that, you can have all these talking heads all you want all across all these
Yes.
influencers and stuff like that, but it's already so deep rooted in this culture. It's going to take decades.
Yeah, it's a matter of survival. Like you said, like
remove.
if somebody's wife isn't working, they're going to be like, "Wow, she's not a good investment." That's how people label it. It's become
Well,
so
it's
capitalistic
more-
and monetary.
It's also the fact that women have been sold this bad bill of goods.
Yeah.
Primarily women, because men are better about this. Like we can be materialistic too, for sure, but men are also, we're willing to suffer and struggle before we get something. And men will literally sleep on a mattress with one TV in the corner of the room and no furniture in a studio apartment for 5 years to hustle and make something of themselves.
Yeah.
Women, on the other hand, don't have a concept like that. Women are either spiritual and not materialistic, or they just like, oh, just comfortable, or they're hyper materialistic and they're obsessed with whatever the other girls on TikTok have.
Harry, after my
They're very
divorce,
susceptible to that.
Harry, after my divorce, it's weird you talked about that, because pretty much everything I owned, house, everything gave to Max, because my kids are over there. So my thing was like, I can survive on my own. I literally had $100 mattress sitting in an empty room. That's where I started back up from.
Yeah.
A cheap mattress with a pillow on it, and had my clothes in the closet, and built by, I mean, not by myself. Obviously, I had family support, friend support, and stuff like that. But
You're living to
I
live
hate
that
this,
life, though.
I hate this idea in society. I just want to rant a little bit. This idea, I did it by myself.
Yeah.
Nobody was there. I'm like, no, you didn't.
It's impossible.
The whole hip hop concept. Nobody believed in me. Like, shut up. All these people, producers believed in you. Other recording artists. There's all these people who, they're your audience who was listening to you. They believed in you. What is this? Nobody believed in you. It's just crap. Like, So anyway, rant over. You being going back to this idea of being a caretaker, even when you're not their caretaker. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you're in the masculine nature, even though you're no longer associated with this woman, you want to make sure that, it's not like a personal thing. I want to like destroy that person's life, but I want to make sure that they're okay so that my kids are okay.
Yeah.
Even if you have like the deepest grudge, no matter what kind of animosity you have towards each other, you have to put that aside, especially when the kids are in the picture. You're like, okay,
Of course.
X, Y, and Z, they're all taken care of. I can survive. And that kind of a mentality is completely absent for the most part.
Yes.
It's completely gone.
It's too much drama to have that. Why would I want to deal with that? Right? I can just live my life. We have a decent job working at AutoZone and survive on myself, living in this small apartment. Why do I want anything else? I'm happy this way. People think that's happiness, because there's no drama. But when it gets later in life, then you're gonna be like, oh man, where's my grandkids? Where's everything else, right?
Yeah.
I don't have anyone with me. That's where loneliness, because that's where people take on pets and champagne, bro.
Yeah.
That's your best friend, two best friends.
Yeah.
Pets and champagne. You got that.
No thanks. La shukran for me, man. I'm not
Dog
about
mom.
that. I want to have a family. Yeah, no. I mean, I hate to say this, like, I know this is going to be super gross, so please forgive me, but I'm really tired of all the people who, like, say, oh, those Muslim people in the Middle East, they have, with donkeys and camels. Hey, man. Let me just break it down, Barney stuff, for the two Islamophobes that come on the group chat every now and then. There's a lot of white girls that are lonely in their late 30s and 40s that are doing that stuff with their dogs. And it's not just a couple.
Oh, snap.
So before you hate on Muslim society too much, just understand we're kind of a gilded birdcage. And that is, when people ask me why I don't come back to America as much, it's that reason right there. It feels like a gilded birdcage. And that is the number one reason why I would not go to Japan to live also. That just sounds like the Japanese version of all the things that I don't like about America. Probably worse. See, America, at least parts of America are going to continue. It's going to be kind of like, there's this element in an American society of like, survivalism, frontierism, so I think parts of America will survive. So the Candace Owens types are going to keep having kids and having, like, the year is 2035 and the only people left in America are Amish and illegal Mexicans. Everybody has bought all the cans of Spam from Walmart, There's that kind of mentality in America of survivalism and frontierism and, individualism that will keep people, and Christianity that will keep some parts of America going. Japan, on the other hand, has this thing of like seppuku. So it's kind of like, for Japanese, I kind of feel like it's almost like they're doing this code of Bushido seppuku national suicide. It's almost like an unwritten rule that's what they're doing right now. Oh, we are so proud. Oh, we've dishonored ourselves, but now we die together. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I feel like when I look at Japan. I feel like they've just collectively decided to die.
Well,
they've decided this is more honorable than fighting about it.
Unintentionally or not, I mean, at least it looks like that's where society's headed. If it wasn't for, there's still a sizable population of traditional people in the United States, and if you look at, I mean, they're going to have kids, right? And if the people who are non-traditional, the modern family or the modern man who decides not to take on any responsibility, not to have kids, those type of people aren't would naturally be in a decline because they're not having kids, right?
Yeah.
So it would just take a long time as long as you have a sizable amount of people who still have traditional values, they can still keep that engine moving
Yeah.
and repopulate. So long as those children of theirs don't become into
That's true.
these hermaphrodites, you know.
Yeah.
Because that's eventually with the trajectory they're taking, because they're confused with their sexuality, confused with their responsibilities, confused with their purpose in life, and yeah, as long as, but the thing is, those institutions have to change though. If you can't change those institutions, if you can't change this way of thinking, whether you're a traditional family unit or not, it's going to affect you. Because if that's what you're keep on being taught through society, through your Netflixes and your stream, your feed on your social medias, if that's if everything is that's being pumped into your child's brain, no matter what you do, no matter all the values you teach them, it's not going to work.
Hmm.
Anyway.
You have to have a system that supports that belief, which is part of the reason why, I support the idea of Hijra.
Yeah.
Either Hijra to another country or Hijra to a Muslim community. It's like the only people that are going to exist in America in about 100 years are going to be religious people, because they're the only people that have kids and have communities that have a sense of maintaining themselves, and a lot of people are just not going to reproduce.
Yeah.
It's not. And just sad, but this is true. This is the reality. So either you have a community like the Amish will survive.
Yeah. They will. But don't you see a lot of these issues permeating into Muslim society in Indonesia while you're there? Like you're seeing.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, because I can tell you, being from an Indian family, we see all kinds of different requirements when people are asking about your daughter or your son when they're looking for marriage and stuff. Like, why does my daughter's degree have to matter? Your son's the one who's providing.
Yeah.
You know. Why does her? You know, all this stuff is like irrelevant, and you can totally tell like the type of family they are, like a very money focused family. Don't really care about stuff other than that. Yeah, no one wants a degenerate, but they have some concern of morals, but it's not high on their priority as much as your ability to make money.
The fact that
I have a rant about that.
Yeah,
if
please.
you'll allow me. Okay.
I love your
am
rants.
so sick and tired of brown people here in Indonesia and in India pretending that they're white people.
Oh yeah.
I'm white. How dare you? This is my white privilege. This is not you. You're brown. I'm white. I'm privileged, not you. You shut up and you keep making babies and you hold on to your traditions.
Yes.
I'm really sick and tired of your nonsense. And I'm particularly annoyed, all jokes aside,
This is great.
about some of you fathers out there who treat your daughters like some sort of high-class, glorified prostitute. I said it. Demanding all this stuff from dowry of a poor young man who's a good, decent, honest, hardworking dude who just doesn't have his life together 100% to your imaginary standard that you read in a magazine somewhere, trying to be like white people monthly or whatever it is that you're reading as you're on your, porta-john that's basically just an outhouse and, may or may not run directly into sewage or into the river. So please stop. Your daughters are not high-class prostitutes for you to extract an extra $5,000 to $10,000 in dowry fees on top of the ridiculous, absurd, expensive wedding that you want to provide her, which is not in line with Quran and Sunnah either. Okay, and then you just need to go back to work, or you need to accept that your daughter is not worth $10,000.
Yeah, and standards are standards, right?
I mean, come on, man. Like, this is like, if you're gonna treat your daughter like a prostitute, she will resent you, hate you, and bad things will happen, like fornication. Sometimes guys, in a fit of rage and desperation, will grape our word the potential bride to be. Say I've deflowered your daughter. What are you gonna do about it? Give me to her. Sorry, I'm not gonna pay the dowry. That happens sometimes in
Mm.
some parts of Indonesia and India. And this is what happens when we don't follow Crane and Suna.
Yeah, it's the
Thank you for letting me rant.
no, no rants. I like your rants. It's the import of this culture, right? The culture of how you dehumanize somebody, and the excuse is that we're trying to make them more educated and more powerful and more wealthy, so they can support themselves. And what ends up happening is, when this idea is sold to these individuals, you strip, especially a woman and a man, you strip them of their original being. You strip her of her femininity to be a very, very strong competitive worker with a man, right?
Right.
And then you take the man, and he has to take that, and eventually he take that in the sense of he has to be okay with it until he sees his, like we said, he sees his spouse as a money making machine, and she has to, because he's doing it, right? So it brings nothing but chaos, man. So I think, I mean, obviously things are turning around. We don't want to make this all doom and gloom, but the direction that society is going in all levels, it's not just America, it's the entire world, because
Our
globalization
planet.
globalization has reached everywhere, right? And
Right.
that's what defines a successful human being now, right? Like, it all comes down to what is success, and what you're just talking about standards, right? Like, you can just drop your standards a little bit and still be happy, right? You've been given false
Alhamdulillah,
standards.
globalization's breaking down a little bit.
Yeah, it
I'm
is. It
glad.
is.
No complaints.
But you know, on the side, I know you're in Indonesia right now. What was the effect of hearing about the India and Pakistan thing on your end, and what was the word on the street? Did people even consider it something serious, or were people talking about it, or?
Well, first of all, Indonesia, according to several credible military, geopolitical, and analytical websites that I've read, I forget their names, but I know they're credible. Don't quote me, bro. Um, says, but I forget what it might have been, like Blue Book or Moody. I can't remember which one it was, but they said something that I already knew intuitively, which is that in the event of a thermonuclear international holocaust, Indonesia is by far one of the best countries to live in.
Hmm.
Because it's an insulated economy, it's insulated food source. There's a lot of natural resources. There's 17,000 islands here. As you saw on the map with Sim, when we did the actual factual size, it's the size of America, the lower 48, and Indonesia theoretically could function without the rest of the planet
Hmm.
functioning. So Indonesia, because of that, has kind of an insulated nature. Like, there's going to be a major rally tomorrow here in Jakarta for pro-Palestine, but it's not like Jakarta is a major capital of a major G20 country, and there's like a handful of white people here. Like, I am like, and most of the time people just think I'm Arab, so there's a lot of Arabs here, so people don't even pay attention to me half the time. It's only when I start talking they realize that I'm not Arab, that they want to come talk to me. Like, oh, because otherwise they just think I'm some dude from Egypt trying to, like, you know,
Hmm.
do naughty things and disappear back into the good night. So, um, it didn't really it the whole India Pakistan thing didn't really affect Indonesia in the
Okay.
way that Palestine does, because Indonesians have still a strong memory of being um, colonized by the Dutch
Hmm.
and how brutal that occupation was towards the end. So Palestine is in people's hearts here in a way that the whole India Pakistan Kashmir situation is not.
Got it. No, that's what I was actually leading to, and as far as like the tariffs, like, and I'll tell you why I'm mentioning this. So I was with a group of brothers yesterday, and we are talking about, I was at a dawat, and we are talking about like the tariffs and how China was showing on social media, and a lot of these companies that are in China, that like Louis Vuitton bags and like high quality products that Americans pay for are actually made in China, and they're sent back to like their respective countries, like Italy or whatever, put stitched on, and they're sent to America. And it was kind of like, okay, you want to put tariffs on us? Look at all of this. Look at all these actual products from these companies that are made in China.
Yeah.
right? And people didn't know. And it was kind of like a revenge thing. And Indonesia obviously came on the map. Malaysia came on the map. Bangladesh came on the map because of those tariffs. And what was the sentiment like there as far as this revolt against tariffs against America there in Indonesia, if anything?
Well, Indonesia's not getting hit as hard.
Mm-hmm.
Indonesia is been kind of playing both sides of the fence in this whole China America struggle. And in some ways, I think they're becoming more pro China. I think America is kind of losing out here
Yeah.
in some ways. And I think the reason is because, well, a lot of it's personal with the Palestinian issue. We're just so blindly still. Although Israel's losing a lot of grip, we're seeing, and rightfully so, as the sponsors of Israel. So there's that personal angle. There's also this thing of, America is leaving. And America is not collapsing as traditional empires collapse, but we're kind of doing what the British did after the Suez crisis in 53, 54. We're just like, all right, we've had enough. We're going to come home now. And it's not the end of America. America's still going to be a large and powerful country and a force in the world. But we're not, Trump's speech in the Middle East was pretty clear. Like, we're done with nation building. We're done with globalization. We're going to work with people, talk and trade with people, but we're not going to be involved like we were before.
Yeah.
He's basically, I do think he will eventually. It's very possible by the end of his 4-year administration, the special relationship with Israel might be very well dead by the end of it. Trump is kind of waffling back and forth on it. This, that, supporting Bibi one day, next day calling a deep dark son of a bee. The next, I think that deep within the soul of every, most Americans, I myself included, I felt like this for a long time now. People are just now catching up. We're just all tired. We're just not. I'm just not interested in empire. I'm not interested in trying to save the world. The only save the whales kind of thing that I feel right now is Palestine, because we're enabling it, and I just want us to stop. But other than that, I can't save the world. People are going to kill each other. People are going to go to war. There's going to be murders and R words and terrible things happening, and I can't do anything to save the planet. Japanese people are literally committing population seppuku, and I can't do anything about that either. So it's just like Americans are just like we're just done.
Yeah.
Here's Harry, I want to show the listeners something we talked about on Wednesday. People were wondering whether Donald Trump is abandoning Israel, and here's a recent interview he had with Fox News.
Are you frustrated at all with Prime Minister Netanyahu?
No, look, he's got a tough situation. You have to remember there was an October 7th that everyone forgets. It was one of the most violent days in the history of the world, not the Middle East, the world, when you look at the tapes. And the tapes are there for everyone to see. So he has that problem. That problem should have never happened. Now, if I were president, that problem wouldn't have happened because Iran had no money. They were stone cold broke.
Are you frustrated at all?
So
Nobody forgets about October 7th. He's like, nobody forgets about October 7th.
no, I mean,
Blah, blah, blah.
even if he was frustrated, he can't vocalize it because, as much as just as Harry just alluded to, the Zionist grip on power has loosened. They've lost the court of public opinion. You, as an observer, as someone who is watching how events unfold in the world, are seeing how little public opinion matters on things. When power wants to move in a certain direction, public opinion on things is very low. I'm not saying it's completely unimported.
It sways the masses, not the governments. That's what you're saying.
Power in itself is institutionalized and works in ways where, for example, like people are saying, well, maybe the Zionists are, in order for Trump to give Benjamin Netanyahu the cold shoulder or whatever, that he's ignoring him and stuff like that. Well, that may be partly true, but for the large part, Zionism and Israel have brought him into power. They gave him a lot of money. They support a lot of his support in politically in Congress and etc. They're all supported by Zionists. So he doesn't have that ability to do anything even if he wants, because Zionism has been institutionalized within the framework of American power, right? So it's kind of embedded in it. So nothing has changed in that regard for him to, like if for example, there was a bill that was passed tomorrow that banned the foreign funding of any lobbying group that was banned from taking money from another government or advocating the interests of another government, that would be a change in things, right? That would make it illegal for American senators and congressmen and women to not take
money from APAC,
not take money from APAC or work in the advancement of any other foreign interests.
Yeah.
That's a game changer.
It's going to take time.
Yeah.
It's going to take a long time to fully purge the Zionist out of the system. Public opinion does matter because we still vote. And also, it's like at a certain point you do face revolutions. And there's a reason that the orange juice have been kicked out of 109 countries. And I mean, I'm not fully in agreement with some of the other people that we have in the group chat that the authentic heart of Judaism is darkness and being an interdimensional baby muncher. But I will concede to them that there is a certain element. It's not just a few people that think in this kind of terms. It's not a few people. There is a real Jewish supremacist attitudes are a real problem. And it's only a matter of time before somebody snaps and does something stupid.
There's a sizable amount, though, of Jewish people in the United States who are against Zionism, and they're sick and tired of.
For sure.
And they, even if they are Zionists, they're not like crazy Zionists like the way Netanyahu's government is going about.
Right.
About
yeah.
So there is a whole lot of dissent among Jewish people, but also among Zionism itself. But that's a separate group of individuals. But I'm talking about just Jewish people itself. Like. That's why I can't ever, even though there's guys like Nick Fuentes who make a lot of great points about stuff, but once you start like hating a group of individuals, I just can't be about that. I support many different problems that they've identified within American society.
Make that distinction.
But like, bro, we're not about hate. Our religion does not teach us to hate anyone. We only hate what God does not want us to be partaking in. Yeah. In sin, that we hate what he hates, what God hates, and God does not want us to behave in ways that are sinful and just are horrible human beings. And like Muslims have lived with Jews for thousands of years. It's for 1,400 years, and it's like, why would we have a problem with them now? They're the ones who came to our lands when they were being under persecution and stuff. This whole Zionism idea is a completely foreign idea, and it's not like just like stuff that you're saying to people just to not be labeled as anti-Semitic. I truly believe that because we were able to live with them, that they were part of many different societies.
Yeah.
Even we talked a few episodes ago about the Yemeni Jewish population that moved to Israel, and they got betrayed by the Israelis, by Zionists, their fellow religious members of their thing. No, and their children were experimented on, and they were sent off to adoption groups and different like that. And
that's some craziness. All
kinds of horrible things they've done to themselves in the interests of their Zionist state, their Zionist project.
Exactly. Because it's really important that you mentioned that. People say, oh, this conflict is 2,000 years old, we can't solve it now. That's actually not true. When the pilgrims, when they were in Russia, and you guys can fact check this, and they were actually seeking out a new land to come to, they actually wrote a letter to the Ottomans. They wrote a letter to the Khalifa and said to the Khalifa and the Arabs, oh, our brother in Ishmael, right? Ishmael's our brother. Something very beloved words.
Yeah.
We love Ishmael as our brother. So can you help us? So the Turks originally were involved in helping the oppressed Jews being relocated out of the goodness of their heart.
Yeah.
And they saw this place, which was Palestine, to just give us a small portion of it, right? Just give us something to escape this, battering and this torture and this persecution that we're going through. And the reason why I mentioned that point is really important is because this problem doesn't go back 2,000 years. People try to say that to be like, oh, okay, there's no hope now. How are we going to solve it now when Hamas does October 7th? It's like, it's never ending. It's actually not true. That's actually not true. And I think the other thing is, like, as far as public opinion is concerned, eventually public opinion gets so strong, like Harry mentioned, is you have like revolutions, you have people who attempt coups and all types of different types of acts of violence, and that stuff there's a lot of pressure involved in that. But I think I think what you're saying is super important, is the infusion of power in the very like veins of America, of Zionism. It's a very, very difficult thing to you can't just escape that in like a decade or in a generation.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to do that.
On the positive note, we're really getting close to it. You can feel the traumatic change in the last year or so. Like,
you can see it across social media platforms, Harry.
Yeah.
You go on Instagram, everywhere. You're seeing everyone upset.
Exactly. And it doesn't help what Kanye does. Can you imagine how many views this guy got?
Dude,
and likes
that's
he got
the thing.
on
Like
his
with Kanye, like, I don't get this dude, man. Like, you have such a huge platform. You're clearly have identified Zionism as a problem, but like you're just completely like you're advocating for hate, you know. And even though I don't truly believe that he's actually a hateful person, I think he's been wronged by the judicial system by not being able to see his kids and stuff. I don't think he's I think he feels deeply wronged in that sense, and he's kind of taking out his vengeance in this way. But I think he's got to kind of lower the scope a bit, because he's identifying,
He's got a lower scope, but imagine how many fans he has now. The people that are just as fun, like doing a Heil Hitler now. It's crazy how that one person, changes his public opinion now, right? Of this populace of people who are like 28 and under.
I don't want that though.
No,
I don't want people to hate. I don't want
nobody
people to
wants
hate.
that.
To be fair though, that was me in 8th grade.
Well, every kid was that in 8th grade. I mean, we just said stuff like that just to piss people off. We didn't really mean it though.
No, I kind of sort of did not really sort of kind of said.
You had the swastika on your chest. You covered with your hand.
No, I wasn't a skinhead either. I had hair back then. But I had my mom, after she left our dad for another band.
Was he a Jewish man?
Dad. He was a Jewish atheist quack doctor who believed that the Nazis had the right idea when it came to eugenics, but in his own words, Harry, they should have killed all the handicapped children with Down syndrome instead of the smart Jews like me.
What the?
Wow.
That's the piece of artwork my mother left my father for.
Oh my God.
And so in 8th grade, I wrote this paper. I was allowed to choose Adolf Hitler and why he did what he did in 8th grade. And my mom moved us to Buffalo, New York, where her side of the family's from. And there's a lot of Jews there. Went to middle school with a lot of Jews. And so I wrote this paper saying, I believe Hitler was one of the greatest leaders of all time. And I wrote that right at the top of the paper. And people pulled me in. I got pulled into the principal's office. People thought I was going to be the next school shooter. They thought I was. And I was like, no, I just mean he was really good at speaking and motivating people with those crazy hand gestures he did. That's all I'm saying. People are like, oh no, it's Hitlerson. He's come here and he's going to kill all the Jews. But I was kind of like, even as I didn't fully understand all as much about history as I do now, I wouldn't say I'm a Holocaust denier. I would say I'm more of a Hitler whisperer.
What
does that mean? I want to know this.
I'm not saying Hitler was. I'm not a Holocaust denier like some of the guys like in the group chat, but the way I look at it is like, I don't say, man, all those poor Jews were killed. I can't believe this happened. I go, why did Hitler get up one day and say, I'm going to kill all these people? I'm going to go, he didn't just do that because he got rejected from art school. There must have been more going on. And I understand where Hitler and the Nazis were coming from. They were really infuriated by the humiliating loss of World War One, and also they saw real signs of Jewish supremacy controlling their society and manipulating people, and then all the stuff with the degenerate transgender stuff. That's what the book burnings were about. So I'm not saying Hitler was good, and by the way, he was a neo-pagan, and a lot of his top henchmen were messing around with the occult. So all these Muslims that want to oh, Hitler's our guy. Okay, I'm not saying Hitler's our guy. I'm not saying the Holocaust was right or just, but I understand why it happened. Unfortunately, the problem with the Holocaust is it went after a lot of poor Jews who had no real power in the real power structure. They're not like the Rothschilds or whatever. The Rothschilds and people like that already fled to Switzerland. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but I understand where Hitler was coming from, having lived under it. And the guy, my mom was dating this guy for years and working with him before she left my father for him. And he manipulated her and destroyed our family. And he was a tyrannical, cruel son of a gun.
Yeah.
And so I sympathize with Palestinians too. Part of that's the reason why I sympathize with them, because I know what living under Jewish supremacy is like. I have a taste of it, not as much as they do, obviously, but I get it.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you just call it Zionist supremacy, though? Is what I'm trying to say. It's like because it does go beyond Zionism. I am gonna give these people credit where credit is due, to the Nick Fuentes and Lucas Gages and the Daniel Hakikachus. There is an element. Zionism, didn't just come out of a vacuum. It is a combination of certain elements of some Jewish rabbis who take extreme interpretations of the Talmud and take the worst passages out and have sort of already we're God's chosen people kind of attitude. And then you combine that with 20th century ideas of nationalism, socialism, fascism, communism. A lot of Jews were actually communists. But Harry, every religion has that. We have nutty scholars from ISIS and stuff like that who've used their own ways of interpreting the supremacy of Islam and Muslims, and use that as a way to persecute minorities in Iraq, etc.
Yeah.
And among Catholics, they've had that as well. So I'm saying that every religion has that kind of stuff.
I understand why Hitler didn't like the Jews, because of that Jewish supremacist attitude that some Jews have, and it's not just a few. I'm not saying it's all. I'm not saying it's most. I'm not saying people deserve that. But I understand why he was angry. Just like I understand why people don't like Muslims when they see ISIS doing crazy things. Yeah. Obviously, ISIS doesn't represent all Muslims. Mm-hmm. But if you say, I don't like Muslims because of stuff like ISIS, I don't sit there and go, oh, you're stupid. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're an Islamophobe. No, I don't. I go, I understand why you feel that way.
Yeah. That's more reasonable, I think. I think when you frame it in that way, where you're understanding where someone's feeling of hate is coming from, that is
doesn't mean you agree with it, but you know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So
but
Harry,
even just me saying that in 8th grade was so controversial, and then people are like, "You're a Nazi, you're a Nazi, you're a Nazi," da da da. And
what's a fascinating thing, though, Harry, is though if you said that about Christianity or Islam or Hinduism, they would have said, Harry, watch that tone. Or maybe that's the worst you would probably have got. Yeah, you would not have been pulled into
the principal's office.
Yeah. I think we had to have Harry finish of what he was trying to say, because in the beginning, when you just say, you know what, I don't blame him. I understand why he did it. You have to have especially nowadays, you have to have a really good explanation. So you just have to wait it out, ride out this wave of Harry's explanation, because if you were just to stop right there, then you know,
Yeah, there's a lot of context
Yeah.
missing.
There's a lot of context. And part of it was I was just trolling, and then my favorite part is like there's this one kid, a Jewish kid. His name was Brian, who'd always like talk smack about he was better than me. I don't even think that was just a Jewish supremacy thing. I think it was just Brian being Brian. And then he read that, and he's like, oh. It's just, I was really just kind of trolling people a little bit. A lot of my friends who were Jews, though, are like, Harry, you're an ass, man. They knew what I was doing. They knew I wasn't really a hateful dude. They knew I didn't really. Actually, a lot of Jews were very kind to me. They saw how cruel my family situation was, and they were very kind to me. And so I always remember that about them when I engage with people online. Like, I don't want to make this about all Jews either. It's not good. In fact, I have a wonderful piece of news. We're going to segue to this.
Nice. Go for it, man.
So I've never had anybody come and give me their shahada until today.
mashallah.
And you're never going to believe who it was. You're never going to believe where they're from.
Where? Israel?
They're from Islam. They're Jewish.
No way.
Wow, subhanallah.
And he was watching me on X. He's been following me on X for a long time and commenting on all my stuff. And he started DMing me, and we talked about a bunch of things. It turns out he'd been thinking about becoming Muslim for a very long time.
Wow.
Wow.
Like, you're kidding me, right?
And where is he located?
No.
Is he located in Israel? Where is he? In America?
He's in Israel. I won't tell. I'm not going to say what city he's in. I'm not going to say specifics. Not going to say his name. He can come out later if he wants to. But now he told me he had talked it over with his family and his. There's actually a lot of nuance. Even the Jews that in Israel that don't like Palestine is part of the reason that the people are like, why are the Arabs and the Jews like getting along? It's because Jewish feelings about Islam are extremely complex. Even the people who are under the illusion of Zionist propaganda and believe the crazy narratives that they do in the propagandized version, many of them still recognize that Jews and Muslims have a lot in common. And they still appreciate the times. Even Rabbi Shmuley will say, Muslims took us in a long time ago. We weren't always like, even Rabbi Shmuley will say that. And so a lot of Jews see Muslims as, their own term, Noahides. Just like it's closer than our term of Kitabi, people of the book. We talk about Christians and Jews as being people of the book. No, Jews see sincere Jews that are very serious about their religion, understand it, and understand what Islam is. Basically, see Islam as Judaism for non-Jews. So that's why they have this complex relationship with the Muslim world. That's part of it. So even if you took the Palestinian equation out of it, they would still have a lot of love and respect for many of them would, of Islam. Historically, they got along with us, as you said, they got along with us better than they got along with Christians.
Sheikh, have you ever converted anyone?
I don't think so.
Why not?
What do you? Why not? That's not up to me, bro. That's not my decision.
I've given it
There's
to you.
not really. I think
Mashallah.
people ask me who did I take my shahada with? Who converted me? Who gave me the most compelling argument? Nobody converted me. A lot of people converted me over a long period of time. I didn't
journey.
convert this dude. He was already doing his due diligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was already thinking about this. I didn't just like, hey, say your shahada, No, he was already, his door had been knocked many times and he decided to answer the call and knock back.
Yeah.
Over many years for him, probably. So.
That internal compass, that fitra, the more you interact with it, the more honest you are. That opens up a lot of truth in the world, not just religiously, but in terms of understanding how things work. The more truthful you are on a selfish level, just being able to understand how things work, not being in the dark, that shroud of mystery and because evil confuses it just obscures things. And the more truthful you are with yourself, with your speech, internally and externally, things open up in the world. You start seeing things that you just didn't really.
The dust settles.
Yeah, because you realize, like, when you're young, I lie here and there. You start ignoring things for the sake of comfort because you don't want to deal with difficulty in your life. You don't want to face the repercussion of facing a truth, maybe an internal truth. Maybe let's just pick a really mild example. Let's just say realizing you're lazy, okay? Coming to that arrival that, hey, I'm just lazy. It's not someone else's fault. It's me.
Yep.
Who's the problem? And seeing that as a way to understand, like, yourself and come to terms with it instead of blaming, my parents weren't wealthy, or my parents weren't this or that, or my teachers were bad. And you start realizing, like, how much control you have over things. And there are many things out of your control as well, but you are more empowered to take your life where you want it to go. And I think that this internal truth is the real miracle within us, within human beings, that points us towards this North Star, constantly pointing us. That's the incredible miracle within us. I mean, we always talk about the biological miracles of the human body and of nature and how the universe is all constructed, but just the proclivity or the inclination of human beings to want to say the truth, but then, like, so many of us don't. But we have an agreement among us. If I say something to you, that's what you are saying is truthful.
Yep.
Even though the opposite falsehood should also be an option there for survival instincts. You should have the ability to lie just as equally. But lying is much more difficult.
It is.
That's how lie detectors work, right? Because they check your heartbeat and your nervousness, your biorhythms and all that. That's what they're gauging. They're gauging fluctuations from the baseline, because on the baseline you're supposed to be a truthful human being. And the people who beat lie detector tests are the people who are the biggest liars, because they're always at that baseline of lying. So they can't establish any kind of baseline because they're just so good at lying.
No, imagine how painful it is. Remember to hack those? People would say that inside your shoe you put like a little thumbtack, and every time they ask you the question to throw off the system, you hit your thumb on that thumbtack, your big toe on the thumbtack, to throw off the system so they can't tell if you're lying or not. Like, imagine the measures you have to take in order for someone to believe you, right? It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. And the blood pressure, all that stuff rises. But look, dude, I think what you said right now is golden. And I think the human being, we know how valuable truth is, but we have this concept of this nafs and these desires that Allah has given us as a test, and those things want comfort and laziness. You mentioned laziness, right?
Yeah.
The nafs wants that laziness. It wants to do as much as it can without, because when you get used to that, you just sit down and shaitan's like, I've got him by his nafs. I got him by his whims and his desires. He's not going to be speaking the truth now. I got him where he is.
Yeah.
This one I don't have to spend too much time on. I got to work on the next one, right? And I think one of the greatest points as far as miracle is concerned, as far as the North Star, is that if you were to make a sacrifice because of truth, and I'm not used to making that sacrifice, I'm like, man, look how much misery this guy's putting himself through, because he, quote unquote, striving for the truth, for whatever it is, right? Whatever that truth is. It can be millions of things. But the person who's not used to doing that, they think you view as miserable. You yourself know, because of that truth that you're dealing with, you're happy even though you're going through pain, right? And because there's a concept of futuhat, like these openings and these conquerings that Allah shows you is happening while you're doing this. So Allah shows us these victories that no one else can see except for you when you're going through fighting for the truth, whatever capacity that's in, that keeps you going. And then you start believing more and more in Allah through sacrifice, while those who are not involved in sacrifice, they're like, what a foolish person this person is. What a horrible person, right? And that's why the mushrikeen in Mecca to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they're like, just take it. We're giving you all of this. You want to go through all this persecution? We're going to keep persecuting you. Look how miserable this persecution is. Look, we're going to give you this. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you this. Why would you choose that? They couldn't see what he was trying to do. They just are looking from the outside world of, dude, it's all about pleasure. It's all about whims and desires. Why have these principles? You go against your forefathers, bullying you with these tactics.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really important that North Star, the fitra within yourself, when it's actually satisfied with Allah, the way it's supposed to, people are not able to see what you're actually going through. Only you can describe that.
With everything that's happening with Gaza and everything, it just you see such a dark side of humanity, and you're wondering to yourself, like, was Iblis right about? Obviously, he wasn't, but did he have a case to make? Because human beings are pretty goddamn awful. They lie, they destroy, they kill. Like, they're capable. The ability to kill people who are completely unarmed and then starve them.
One after the other, on top of each other. Yeah.
Was
Evil
the original fight or argument or whatever with his creator? What was he onto something? Not that you want to agree with him, but you kind of understand.
You start thinking.
You understand, like,
Allah mentioned in the Quran, so you start thinking about it.
Of course, Allah knows more than him, and He knows that He put this fitra in human beings that will eventually guide human beings to the truth. Allah knows this, but Iblis is saying, I know the nature of these things. Their nature is to corrupt, and I am a better creation. And it got me thinking about this thing. It's like, what exactly is it about human beings that makes us so good? Obviously, there are wonderful human beings, and there's so many people who want this oppression to end. But it's got me thinking, like, there's this thing that Allah is telling us. It's not telling him, obviously, because he just simply says, I know what you don't know, right? But I began to wonder, like, what is it that he knew about human beings? I mean, he tells us many times in the Quran about the fitra and the different capabilities of human beings to seek out the truth and use their intellect to discover what truth is. And even though you see this complete obliteration of Gaza unfolding before our eyes, there's this new Operation Gideon or whatever that they're the Israelis are enforcing, where they're trying to clear out northern Gaza again by killing them, just wholesale murder of people. And I'm just trying to wrap my mind around how people can be so cruel. Like, how do you get that way? And like, I couldn't ever imagine, even if tomorrow the Palestinians had the upper hand over Israelis, maybe they came up with some kind of miraculous weapon. I couldn't ever imagine wanting to do that in retribution, what they did to them, Like, how is it people can become so evil as a society, And
just to clarify, Muslims, if they were in that position, they would not take that type of retribution against.
No, we didn't. It's proven.
Yeah,
we didn't do that when Saladin took Jerusalem. We didn't take that.
Yeah,
Muslims forgave, and they guaranteed everyone's security and protection.
Yeah,
and that's a hallmark, or that's a sign for those who want to know the truthful, the people who are people of justice and mercy. Those are the people who can identify, and that's what you look at. I saw Theo on the other day. He released a clip. Let me put it on here. It's beautiful because it's just like, it's pure emotion. He put out a small couple-minute clip, and he's such a good dude. I've seen him perform live recently, and I'm so glad I did, because he's such a good dude.
Alive here in front of our lives, people like putting their kids back together, probably like one of the sickest things that's ever happened. And I'm sorry if I've kind of haven't said about it. I've tried to talk about it and learn about it. I just wanted to say something. I don't even know what to do. And it's crazy because our country's also complicit in it. It's in it. and has been for a long time. And it's just kind of interesting because then you just realize, oh, well, I'm a member of this country, but what we want sometimes doesn't matter. Yeah. So just praying for those people and just the grief that is all going to cause. You notice, like, what are we doing?
Yeah, so, I mean, it goes on for. I think he has like a 5-6 minute long talk. This is just a snippet of it. We'll get kicked off the stream if we play more of it. But I encourage you guys to check it out. He's such a good dude, and one of the few people. Him, Miss Rachel, the kids' teacher. She's gone on a limb and done. Many people are coming forward. Tim Dillon, he's another comedian. Dave Smith, obviously,
Candace.
you know.
Like the Miss Rachel thing was outlandish. They're like, she's an operative of Hamas. Like, what? She's like, I just like to help kids. Mahdi Hassan interviewed her. She's like, I just want to help kids wherever kids. She's helped all types of kids and raised awareness. She's like, I don't care if this was what happens to me. I'm just raising awareness about kids. Like, kids are dying, right? And the audacity to try to flip that card. The whole world knows this is just a hoax. I don't know what else to call it. She's a underground Hamas sympathizer operatives. Like, what the hell are you talking about? But dude, to just shed a little more light on what you mentioned, you know, when Allah talking about how he created Adam and the angels, asking, you know, are you going to create أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَن يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء? Are you going to create somebody on this earth who's going to cause all types of corruption, mischievousness, and spill blood? And Allah says, I know what you don't know. Then Allah then says, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Allah taught Adam the names of everything. And Adam learned it. That's the first thing. Then Allah says, didn't I tell you? So that's the first point. What is in that point that Allah is saying, didn't I tell you? It's the fact that Adam alayhi salam is able to learn and follow the commands of Allah, that Allah gives him something, and he just as simple as learning language. If Allah tells him to learn language and he learns it, that's the first thing that Allah knew. That obviously they weren't thinking about it, but Allah knows the ghaib, right? Now the other is that when Adam alayhi salam, the story continues about them, and now shaitan comes to them and whispers to them, right? Because what you had mentioned about shaitan, this is where Allah talks about there's a party that's going to be of shaitan and a party that's of Allah. That's what it's all broken down to in the end, in the akhirah, right? And the party that's from shaitan is going to see Adam alayhi salam as doing something wrong, and he's doomed because he listened to shaitan. But rather he asked Allah for forgiveness. That's the thing. So Allah accepts forgiveness. So Allah gives the opportunity to sin, and he gives, or if someone does something they're not supposed to be doing, but what's embedded within that is Adam alayhi salam didn't know the concept of deception. The shaitan deceived Adam and Hawa by saying, oh no, that's only if you want to be angels. But you guys are human beings, so it doesn't matter. Only Allah was just saying that if you want to be angels, you want to be angels, right? No, I don't want to be angels. Okay, you're a human being, then it's fine. Adam alayhi salam, he wasn't used to that concept of deception. He was deceived. But even though he was deceived, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still not done with him, obviously. Yes, he's going to test him. That's the next part. He tests him and he puts him on earth. And there's this constant thing of revelation. Now there's being said that revelation comes from Allah. There's those people who are saved and those people who aren't. There's those people who are saved and those people who aren't. And those people who listen to revelation to the end. And obviously this is revelation to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's symbolic that this is the same thing that's going to be happening to you and your followers. They're going to be deceived. They may be doing wrong, whatever happens, but whoever believes in Allah at the end is the only one that's saved. So Allah knew what nobody else knew, right? Now shaitan, Iblis on the other hand, was just looking at it as deceiving. I'm going to win if I deceive. He can deceive a majority of the world if he wants, but he's not going to be successful if there's even one person that goes to Jannah, right? Yeah. So there's that. The problem now becomes that people inherit that type of thinking, where they become like the shayateen, right? That's crazy because there's some types of shayateen that get jealous or like scared of like, how can a human being get to the level we just told him, but he's actually doing it and he does it more than us. That's where it gets really scary. But the crazy thing is, since we're talking about this, and Allah talks about the next portion of the surah, what you mentioned, he talks about Bani Israel. Everything's about Bani Israel after that.
Oh wow.
So that's why this is really, really crazy. Bani Israel has to pay the most attention to the Iblis-like attitude of what happened because they've repeated it over and over, right? And in order to understand it's like what's actually happening, they have to understand that Shaitani, Iblisi command following, which we see in Israel, which we see in Palestine, right?
Yeah.
Allah's literally telling the purpose of human being and them falling down, but they can rejuvenate themselves except if they're from the Iblis. And who do we see in Palestine who's following the Sunnah of Iblis? It sounds so uncomfortable to say,
Yeah.
but he's literally saying, Bani Israel, be careful. Bani Israel, be careful. Bani Israel, be careful. He talks about the calf. Why is he saying that? It's because they were very susceptible to it. Allah's using them as an example.
Wow.
Right?
Libya is seems like it's the destination for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. Plans are not clear right now.
Yeah.
Details aren't hashed out, but it seems like the Trump administration is planning on moving up to 1 million Gazans into Libya. The exchange would be the Americans have billions of dollars of Libya's revenue frozen, and they would release that in exchange for them taking a sizable population of Gaza. I don't understand why it would be if like if Libya does agree to this, which I really hope they don't. It should be astronomical. It should not be a few billion. Like what? A few billion?
No, is this
It doesn't make sense on its face. Like wow, the cost of 1 million people is astronomical.
And I think Trump knows that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use this since you talked about your divorce experience,
Yeah.
I'm going to use this as a segue to talk about my divorce experience. And it sounds strange. Why am I going to segue into this? Because some divorces are like yours where you like give the woman everything and you just say, okay, well, it didn't work out. I'm going to take this, take the car keys. And then there are divorces like mine where, you say, I'm divorcing you. Or she says, I want a divorce. And you say, okay, do it. And then you're like, what? You want to divorce me? Well, you said you wanted to divorce me, so we're going to do this. And the last 3 years of my marriage, I hate to even call it a marriage, were back and forth, breaking up, getting back together, chaos, this, that, and the other, changing my story. So what I see in Donald Trump making that statement, I kind of agree with Shahid Bolson. It's kind of like the powers that be have decided that Israel is too much of a liability. The moneyed interests that run the world see the Middle East as we could make everything like Dubai. There's too much money involved for them to give that up now. So I agree with Shahid Bolson when Donald Trump renews his vows, so to speak, by saying stuff like that on Fox News, like that clip you played. It's renewing the vows of a dead marriage that's not going to survive.
does that have anything to do with stepping down? Look, oh, sorry.
It does because like when Donald Trump says, "Oh, we're gonna send 1 million people to Libya and we're gonna unfreeze their assets and we're gonna," after all that whole thing falling out with BB, which everybody saw, which was real, which is incredibly obvious, and letting the Yemen Houthis continue to do their thing and leaving that whole situation. The Houthis are still firing rockets at Israel, and we're not stopping them. After all that fiasco, Trump then comes back on and says, "Oh, Bibi Netanyahu, we don't have any rift between us, and October 7th was terrible, and blah, 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 and we're going to send 1 million Gazans to Libya." It's just renewing the vows of a dead wedding. I went through that, and that's why I see when Donald Trump says.
That's an interesting take.
Donald Trump couldn't defeat the Houthis. In fact, like people are like, "Oh, you always lost to the Taliban and the Houthis." Dude, no navy on the planet was ever going to be able to beat the Houthis. It's literally ships versus mountains.
Yeah.
Mountains always beat ships. So what is this? This is Donald Trump. Professor Morandi, I know everybody's like, "Oh, he's the axis of resistance, he's your feety." Yeah, but he says a lot of things that are true, whatever. I don't really care if you don't like him. he had this really great point that Donald Trump is coming back into the White House thinking it's still the situation from 7 years ago. And a lot has changed. The United States, not only is it that our deep state and the powers that be and the great powerful moneyed interests in America are trying to pull stuff back in. This was already happening. The tariffs and the pulling back of stuff to America was already happening under Biden. Like it's just that's why I say the national mood of the country, both the people and the establishment, is we're done. In our heart and souls, we're all done. Israel is the final straw, this final brick in this road to going back home. Once we dump Israel, we really can be a truly America first country and not get involved in dumb stuff or do dumb stuff anymore. And everybody sees that. Just as Donald Trump is realizing that he couldn't defeat Yemen and he gave up very quickly, he's going to realize that he's not going to be able to displace 2 million people into Libya or Egypt or wherever. He's already been trying for a year and he hasn't been able to make it. He says, Russia and China are going to step in. The other Gulf states are going to step in. They're all saying, they all met in Baghdad today or yesterday. We want the flow of food to come back into Gaza. We don't want displacement. I mean, we're talking about Marion Heddleson owns Trump. I think the Gulf states own Trump now.
Oh,
so
yeah,
Trump
they do. With all the investments. Oh, yeah.
So Trump can, like, even if they're not saying that publicly, like, even though they want Hamas to step down and go away, they don't want 2 million Gazans starving to death either. It doesn't make them look good. And they don't want a mass expulsion of people from the West Bank and Gaza into their neighborhood. They don't want that.
So I think two quick things. I think the Arab League that got together in Baghdad to talk about this, I don't think that they have that much power for getting together. I understand the sentiment. That's the sentiment of the world. My problem now is with the America First is America can't be America First. The way I'm looking at it is with the amount of investments that Saudi and the Emirates and Qatar has made now in America, there's America First on the level of like getting away from wars and not getting yourself involved in wars. But what about something equivalent into now $1 trillion of investments of other countries that America is now dependent upon? And I mean, like, there's no America First in that either, where, like you said, that the Gulf countries have control over Trump now in America to a certain degree. It's just so much chaos, and we're just throwing money at it through investments, and obviously they deem that as necessary for their own agenda. But now you have more chaos in Libya. They're talking about moving, and this is all connected. It's all interconnected. The Palestinians being relocated to Libya, and Libya now has like a coup that's forming now. We have resignation of like 3 different, government officials stepping down. Some are saying it's connected to the whole Palestine thing, the relocation. Some say it's not. Like Libya is now on the brink of another, from what I understand what Al Jazeera was reporting, is another coup that's occurring in the process, and a revolution, even more chaos. Like what's happening? And I think it's probably too early to tell, but what is happening? There's resignation, borderline coup revelation again in Libya. Libya has never been the same, right? And then you want to relocate Palestinians there. And then you have these multi-trillion-dollar deals being made with America and the Gulf countries, and the Arab League meeting in Baghdad sharing their sentiment. How is all this related and connected?
Well,
it may not be connected. It may be just Libya being chaotic like always ever since the fall of Gaddafi. I mean, it's just chaotic on its own. I mean, yeah, they're involved. Yeah, they're doing stuff, but sometimes it's just Libya being Libya, post-Gaddafi Libya. This is what it is.
The eastern part of Libya is controlled by one faction that's supported by Turkey, and the western part is another faction that is trying to remember the guy's name. But anyway, that faction is just fighting tooth and nail to get control of the wealthiest parts of Libya, the eastern part. That's Khalifa Haftar. The eastern part is led by, and the west is led by Abdul Hamid Dibeba. That's a cute name. Dibeba.
That'll probably change in 6 months. I'll change in 6 months. Who knows?
But did they share a timeline about this relocation?
No, well, that's the thing. Who are you negotiating with, right? I mean, today's Libya government agrees to something that tomorrow's Libya doesn't.
Exactly.
You
So
know,
chaotic.
like how is this? You have to have a stable partner. Maybe the Americans are going to promise them to crush this Dibeba fellow. Dibeba.
That's a
Am I
possibility.
pronouncing it right?
I don't know, but
Let me.
but the problem is not, is it just one of
Yeah.
those things that Trump just threw out there as Libya and people just talk about it? Like, is it actually going to come into fruition? Like,
Who knows? I mean, it seems like his plan to set up Gaza as this resort. Maybe he's following through. Maybe this is part of that plan to depopulate Gaza, ethnically cleanse it, to be more precise in language. Maybe this is all part of that plan. Someone needs money, right? I mean, there's always going to be some country in the world who will want a whole lot of money for this.
that's true.
If the number is right, that's how capitalism views everything, right? They see there's a dollar sign associated with everything that can be then any outcome you want to have, there's a dollar sign associated with it. And they view this opportunity in Libya maybe with the right amount of money, because I think Egypt, they couldn't get a dollar number agreed on. I think the Egyptians wanted like a lot more. And plus Egypt, I don't think the Egyptians did not want to be associated with the ones who as abandoning Palestine. They didn't want that on their neck. Libya, today's Dibeba could be some other guy, and there's not much of a legacy to worry about with the Libyans, because there's no stable government to begin with.
Right.
The stability, you could take that money, this Dibeba fella
if
or
you're
the other
desperate
guy,
enough, yeah.
and you could start your own government with that money that you get from the Americans and the Israelis. You could say, hey, look what I did. I forged a new Libya with this money. You all better figure out how to live with the Palestinians and Libyans side by side. And
That's going to be a cluster.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, you know, it's one thing for Trump and all the powers, the big cheeses, to get together and sign deals and talk about money, but it's another thing to actually go forward with the logistics of it and making it happen. And just as the Houthis had mountains, the Hamas still has tunnels, and they could keep going for another few years if they really want to. They've got enough food and resources down there for maybe 3 or 5 years of fighting.
yeah,
This could drag on for another 2 years, unfortunately. And a lot more people in the Gaza Strip will die, but every time as this continues to drag on, it hurts Israel. We're talking about Jews, not all Jews who are Zionists being terrible people. I mean, there's Jews who are Zionists in Israel who are starting to say, like, hey, what the hell are we doing here, man? Even Ehud Olmert, former IDF head commander Olmert, coming out and saying, this is nonsense. Beating Netanyahu is destroying the country. And he is. So this is why I kind of go back to the whole thing of, like, you know, Donald Trump making marriage vows with a wedding that's clearly dead. You know, he, like I said,
Donald Trump had to make some promises here. He had to make some promises in order to get that $100 million from Miriam Adelson. He had to figure out a solution, and he sees now what he stepped into when he made that agreement with her to get that money. In order for
And she's just one piece of the puzzle.
and I'm sure he's hoping, with all hopes, that once this Gaza situation is settled, that he'll be free from the shackles of Zionists and he can go his own way and they can go their own way. And I just don't think that's how it works, at least with Zionists. There's always an ongoing project that they have. Like, for example, taking on war with Iran. They've been pressuring him. He's released, made a lot of statements in order to shore up support for a campaign against Iran. on their behalf. You think he's formed his whole platform on not getting into foreign wars. He's talked about.
I think he
talked
was
about
very close a couple weeks ago to doing that, but I think now he's like, that's not going to happen, especially after this whole golf meeting.
Yeah, and in this golf meeting, he's then talks about how the previous presidents were idiots and they were using this region as a place of war. You were just going to go to war
That's
2
true.
weeks ago.
That's true.
You're so full of crap. Completely unhinged, dude.
He is full of crap, but he's also transactional, and I think it's pretty clear that he's just, as we're talking about renewing vows on a dead marriage. On top of that, Trump's got a new girlfriend in another town, and she's young. She's twice as hot and half the age of the current wife.
The problem with that analogy is that all the in-laws of the first wife are still at home. You know, they're all like here, and the new wife, she doesn't have any support, meaning they don't have institutional support among the framework of power in the U.S. You know, so the old wife, you know, she may be looking old and haggard, but she's got her in-laws and she's got the people who have sway in the family and the direction where he wants to go. They still have a considerable level of leverage over him. And that's where the problem
10 years ago,
is.
the in-laws were a factor, but now the in-laws are dying out, and the younger generation of the family.
I hope so.
Like,
we'll see. Time will tell. But right now, as we still see their sway in Hollywood. You see their sway in various institutions of the economy of the U.S. and the way the U.S. moves, the financial systems, etc. I mean, the Zionists weren't born yesterday. It took them decades to plant their seeds, see it to grow, and really spread their influence all across the world. You know, so it's not going to be taken. It won't be uprooted overnight. Is what I'm trying to say.
No, I definitely agree with that, but I think it's on an accelerated time frame.
Yeah,
now,
without a doubt, especially
2 years.
It's especially
like 2 years ago, I said a decade from now, but now I could see it in 5 years. Sorry, I didn't make a shot.
Yeah, no, I think especially with the whole new generation of children who are seeing what these guys have done.
Oh yeah.
Even if the Palestinians of Gaza get displaced into Libya, you can never forget what you've seen in Gaza. You just can't.
Because people have shifted. They're not calling it a war anymore. They're calling it a genocide.
A genocide a live genocide. You don't have to look at black and white pictures of the Holocaust or whatever.
Old history books. Nope.
Of the Pol Pot's crazy brutality or Rwanda's. You don't have to see a movie depiction of what happened in Rwanda, right? You're seeing brutality live streamed.
Yeah.
That is wild. And that will leave an impressionable, a permanent impression on the psyche of people all across the world of what these guys did.
And that's why they're really upset about Ms. Rachel getting involved, because of her involvement with children and
because
raising
this is their
that
area, because they want to be the ones who are indoctrinating people.
One superstar.
This is why Harry got sent to the principal's office.
Yeah, that's right. That's
you know, because they want to make
why my bank account shut down.
Yeah. No, this is something that is unheard of in terms of like any other oppressed people. You are immediately circled around and cordoned off and ostracized and shown you're a black sheep. Harry, what is wrong with you? You're not normal. That's not what we say. It's like, you don't do that for anyone else. This is what I'm talking about. How they have this levers of power in the education system, in Hollywood, in the financial systems. They've effectively identified specific areas of where power lies, right? And they've effectively control it. So that's why when people were speculating about Trump going back and forth, and yeah, there may be some like, oh, frustration, like this guy doesn't want to end the war, but inevitably he has to go through with what their plan is, what their vision is. And the real test of this is whether he will go to war, whether the other institutions of power will allow him, or at least prevent him from. That's the true test. How strong is Zionism? In my opinion, what I'm looking at is if he goes to war with Iran, because what they're saying is they want a complete dismantling of Iran's. They want the Libya model, which means that there's no program, that there is no nuclear power for civilian use or anything. That's what the Libya program is. So the Netanyahu government is saying we want the Libya model, which means nothing nuclear, not even for peaceful purposes.
Donald Trump has already been warned that going to a war with Iran would be suicidal.
Well,
and it would be.
Many people have said that about Afghanistan and Iraq, and they've done it at the Zionist behest, So we have to see.
No, it's not the same thing. Iran is like not Iraq or Afghanistan. Iran could like set Israel on fire, take out tens of thousands of our troops stationed across the Middle East, shut down the global flow of oil by taking out a lot of infrastructure. They could cause a lot of damage, and that's without a nuclear weapon.
Yeah,
I mean, they could make things pretty damn cataclysmic without nuclear warheads.
Yeah.
Let alone if they get that, they actually get one.
Undeniably, Iran is a very powerful nation, and it has a lot of capabilities to defend itself way better than Iraq or any other country could. But
he's not gonna, dude. Here's what they're gonna do. They're gonna. Donald Trump was an idiot to destroy the JCPOA. He's basically gonna bluster and fluff for politicking purposes. He's gonna basically put the JCPOA back in, and it's gonna put lipstick on. They're gonna change a few like minor details. So he's like, yeah, it was a bad deal, but I renegotiated. Now it's a better deal, and he's gonna call victory, call a date, just like we defeated the Houthis. We slapped them around. Blah blah blah, and now they're our friends. And
for those who don't know what Harry's talking about, there was an agreement in place during Trump's first presidency to have oversight with Iran and have make sure that Iran is using nuclear energy for peaceful civilian use, not for the making of weapons. Donald Trump was the one who destroyed it.
Yes, he is.
He's the one who tore it up during his first presidency. Now he's coming back and like trying to fix things, and basically, that's what Harry said is that he will revive it and just make a few tweaks to it, and I think that is.
If he blanked over Yemen, he's going to blank over Iran, and he's eventually, I think, going to blank over the whole Gaza thing too, because one, he doesn't really want to do it. Two, like I said, the marriage is really over. It's like taking its course. It's like when you moved out of your ex-wife's house, or you moved into the garage and she took over the living room kind of thing, and it lasted for a couple of years with the paperwork was getting played out. You're going to the bar every night. Technically, you're still married and living at the same house, but the marriage is over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting take. I like hearing
My
this
divorce
take.
was interesting.
Speaking of marriages and stuff like that, popular influencer Mahdi Tidjani released a video. He was out not making any videos for 6-7 months. It's been a while, maybe 10 months or something like that. And I was just like, I messaged in our group of friends. I'm like, hey, anyone here from Mahdi? And everyone's like, no, I heard he's doing his Black Label men's group or something like that. And I'm like, oh, okay. He hasn't posted anything in quite a while. So I ended up texting him like, hey, is everything all right? You want to talk? We can. But anyway, he was very appreciative of me reaching out and said he's okay. So he released a video just a couple days ago stating that he is no longer going to be Mahdi Tidjani as we know it, like the idea of no strings nikah and all this stuff, that he is kind of taking a different direction. He talked a bit about how his advice doesn't translate to every single person. He has huge advantages, like he's a very handsome man, he's taller, etc. You can't teach that to someone. He's naturally going to have a level of charisma and attraction that other men won't have. It's just built in. And he had this level of honesty and self-reflection that he had with himself. It's like, I'm selling a bag of crap, basically. Like, this is not going to translate to everyone. This model does not work for everyone, you know? And I found that really refreshing, because very few people have that level of honesty. Because in that world of self-improvement, self-marketing, and attracting women to you, there's just a lot of BS. And there's a lot of, because the money's so good in it, the incentive to be truthful and honest is very low. You want to make sure that everyone believes that they can be something they're not. And he also talked about, because he has this life of, having multiple wives and stuff, he didn't want to attract attention. Like, remember we had this episode about him? Like, we gave him some advice about how, when you show your wives and stuff on YouTube and stuff, and make it, your thumbnails and stuff like that, which he didn't. He had their faces obscured and everything, but it attracts the wrong type of attention. Even though your video might be getting, hundreds of thousands of views, the payoff is you're getting a lot of that evil eye. Because while I'd like to believe that many, if not most, people are happy for you when you say good news on social media, there's just a sizable minority that's just not going to be happy, because they're just upset. For whatever reason, they just have difficulty that's happening in their life, that they're going to see someone, especially a guy as attractive and handsome and charismatic as Mahdi. They'll be like, man, this is not fair. Like, I've been dealt a poor hand, This guy's got everything a man could ever want, and he's brown just like me. He's Muslim just like me. Why didn't I get that?
That's something that my wife and I have talked about. We just, I really try and keep her out of the public eye as much as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say I love my wife. She's great. I'll say, yes, I'm married to her. Half the time, I don't even tell people what her name is.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm trying to hide something or be nefarious, but I was on an Indonesian show about Muslim reverts about 2 years ago. And it was okay. It was like a small, like Southeast Asia Today or some TV show like that. And, it was great. It was nice to have the exposure. They took a phrase I said out of context to make it say, like, I'm Indonesian now. I'm renouncing my American citizenship. I never said that. I was kind of pissed off about that. But overall, the show was good.
Yeah.
But, it's like, that's a different crowd of people. That's old people that watch that show. And YouTube is a different ballgame. The internet is a very different ballgame.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that show's there, but my wife and I have, my wife wears niqab now for a variety of reasons. She's kind of a shy person by nature. I'm very protective of her, and I want to keep her away from stuff in the public eye. I told you guys about the whole, the black magic woman, that incident I had.
Yeah.
I think that was some evil eye PB&J going on.
Yeah. PB&J at one point?
People like
Well,
PB
see
and J.
the thing, PB and jelly.
PB, PB,
PB and J,
jelly.
PB and jellies, yeah. Yeah, PB and jellies, and I
Yeah.
just think it's like, I still have women that come to me on social media. They're like, they know I'm married and they want me now because even though I'm a short king, I'm not, Medi, I'm definitely, I guess I'm like a little court jester for them. Or they just want that whiteness, that magical whiteness in their life or something. Like I still get women that DM me every now and then, and it's like it's very obvious that they want me, or they'll straight up try to make marriage proposals. I've had women straight up make marriage proposals in my
You got this
DMs.
teddy bear vibe.
Not
I do.
really.
Yeah, you do. I could see you in like a teddy bear costume.
What?
That's
You know?
right. That's right. Feed me falafel. Fatima, that sort of thing. And like these girls will like. Then I'm just like. Then they're also at the same time like no polygamy, no polygamy. So wait a minute. You don't want to be a second wife, but you want to come harass me, and I'm already married. Like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah,
And then what it is they're trying to take me away from my wife
yeah.
for themselves. And it's just like
And the moment
This
they
is
do,
why-
they'll abandon you.
they do, and that's why I just
They
like
just
chicks
wanted
in
to
my
see if they
DMs.
could.
They do. These chicks in my DMs, like, just like I've told them, like, yo, you have to go away. You're bad. Just
Yeah.
get away from me.
Yeah,
So I just like,
it's the real life relationships, the people you meet in
Yeah.
your real world. Those are the most real relationships.
Yeah.
I think what happens is you don't get to ever meet these people, and they're just some really horrible human beings out there who just want to see. They just think that it's a game, and
It's
they
fun.
want to see if they can win you.
Yeah, it's fun. It has,
And once they realize, like, oh, I won him, it's not much of a challenge anymore. Let's see if I can move on to Sheikh Amr and see if I could pull on her heartstrings. Is my beauty that good that I could corrupt the most incorruptible? You know, I'm not saying Sheikh.
right.
I'm not trying to
No, but what
mess you
happens
up,
to
but
people is-
I'm just saying this
I know
is
what you're
somehow what some women think.
it's as simple as this,
They
bro.
think it's a game.
it
They're
it
like,
just
oh.
raises their blood pressure. That's all it is. They do it for the raising of their blood pressure and make them excited. Like you said, it's a game, bro. People do all kinds of stuff.
And
Just be happy
see
for what you have,
They
bro.
don't see you as a human being. They
Yeah.
don't see you as someone like, hey, I'm someone who is willing to give you love, protection, be everything that you would want to see in a husband. You're thinking in your mind that this girl is like likes you genuinely, and has an interest towards you, and all your emotions related to, not just emotions, but your biological traits of protection over her start creeping up into you, and you're like, I'm going to rise to this occasion. But then you get slipped this bag of crap. Like, just kidding. I just wanted to see if I could get you.
Some of that,
Go bleep
some of
yourself.
it is-
I'm
some
out of
it
here.
is-
It's like,
some in my case is like they just want to steal me because they just want my money and they just want to control me and have the status of being married to a white guy.
Yeah.
yeah.
That is a real thing. I have the black magic that I was dealing with. That was not just a game. That
Yeah.
was
Black magic
this
for a
is
white guy.
well, not just for white guys, for other Indonesians too. Like this is a thing here that some of these women with the evil eye, they will use dukuns. That's the term for Indonesian witches that are into witchcraft here, to woo a guy away from his wife or his family or whatever, or girlfriend or whatever. And it's like it always starts with you're getting into these arguments with your wife and your spouse, and you're getting angry at her and you don't know why.
Yeah.
And it's very nefarious stuff. And it's like, so for some women it's not just a game. It's like here they're playing for keeps. It's a game, it's a dark game, but it's also like it's like collecting slaves at the African slave market.
It's crazy, man. I genuinely believe where it's like it's a miracle that people get married now. It's miraculous because and you see, we just talked in the beginning of our podcast about feminism and all the different problems that are evil masculinity, all this stuff that is just destroying civilization. But on top of that, finding someone who you want to be part of, like you want to make a partner with, like, hey, let's start something beautiful together. And then you see all these like road hazards in that journey. Like, how the hell are people getting married? And this is why I tell a lot of people, like, find a community, like a real community, like a mosque. Even if you're not a Tablighi, join a Tablighi Jamaat, bro. If you can't, those guys are willing to be friends with everyone. God bless their hearts, bro, because they'll love you no matter what. And like, find people that are like-minded, that take religion seriously. Like, it's not a joke to them.
Yeah.
Right. And you're not gonna agree with everything. Choose your battles. Pick your fights. Right. Realize, like, hey, these guys have their thing that they've established over the years, and you're just gonna have to sometimes shut up. And it's not always gonna be logic and reason that wins at the end of the thing. And you just sometimes have to realize, like, okay, well, they're family, and because family always has some crazy people, you're just gonna have to deal with their stupidity once in a while. I'm not just saying Tablighi, anyone, every group or any Jamaat, anyone who has a community involved, bro, go over there, be part of that. You can't just hope for something to happen out of nowhere. Like, if people want to know about your kids, who your family is, they're gonna ask around. Yeah. And if you don't know, this one guy, bro, he asked for my daughter's hand, and this stupid kid, bro. He comes with his parents and stuff like that, and he wants to, he wants to tell, like, his family's his family's a recluse family. They don't know anyone. Nobody. I tried asking her. Nobody knows them. Like, they're in like a major city of ours, like right across the street, not too far from us, basically. And so I started like looking him up, and I'm like, oh, well, there's got to be something about him. There's someone I contact who is able to dig up stuff, finds out a bit more about him, and shows me his Instagram profile. Bro's like following all these OF girls and stuff like that. I'm like, you dumb SOB. You thought nobody would see this? So these are the hazards, man. Like, on the surface of, you're like looking at him, I mean, he didn't look like outwardly dini, but he seemed like a decent kid. And I'm like, I'm not saying any guy is innocent of this kind of stuff, but doing it in the public with your main account, look, let's face it, a lot of Muslim brothers, they have backup accounts for that kind of stuff, right? But being stupid enough to do that, and that's just some dumb.
But that is a red flag. Nobody knows you. Like, that's a red flag. Nobody knows you and your family. That's a red flag.
Yeah, nobody knows you. Even if, like, there was something kind of borderline sketchy about you, there's no way to verify, like, hey, there's a mountain of good evidence for this gentleman. Yeah, he may have a couple character flaws, but there's a body of work. He's been part of MSAs.
Got a portfolio.
He's been doing things. He's been involved with communities. He's go with volunteers and stuff like that. There's nothing verifiable about this person, and that in itself is a huge problem. Yeah, that's why you gotta. It's obviously, we as Muslims, everything is built on intention. We want to make sure that we're out there for the purposes of our religion, because that engine is that motivation factor, right? Yeah. We want to make sure that's first clear, right? But one of the benefits that happens from being out there among the public and is that people know you. They get to know what you're about. The people who are just in it for themselves, they volunteer for the food truck maybe for a week or two, and then they bounce. They're like, oh, I used to do food trucks back in the day. I would volunteer and help feed the needy, and Like you did it for 2 weeks, bro. Those are the hypocrites in those the volunteer circles. I'm sure those guys can talk about it much better than I can. But they're
Well, that is the point, though. You have to be associated with the community. Like you have to, and not only that, man. It keeps you on your A game, whether you like the community or not.
You build each other up.
You build each other up. Just hyper individualism, where I'm not going to be associated with anybody. I'm gonna do everything on my own, and I don't need anybody. Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah,
that sounds really cool, but in reality, that has no merit, dude.
That's why this podcast is never something I always say. Oh, I'm doing enough for the community. Like, no, get out there, go meet people at the mosque, free of charge, help them out and whatever. See where you can help. Where maybe you don't have any skills at all. Maybe just your hands are enough to load a food truck, and
for more than a week.
Yeah, for more than a week. But even if it is a week, as long as that's sincere, it's not for the show. Usually, filling up a food truck involves not many eyes looking at you.
Yeah,
it's very solo.
No, I know a brother that was a really cool guy, bro. He used to be a part of all these like humanitarian organizations. Like, yeah, just don't put me in any pictures of your stuff. Like, why? We're gonna pose, like poses that we gotta put this on social media. He's like, no. He did that for years. He's like, don't put me on any pictures. That's the only condition I have. Just don't put me in any pictures. I don't want to be seeing any of this and this and that. That dude I ended up respecting a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, that dude I ended up respecting a lot because he could have like, hey, smile, and he didn't want to do that.
Then one day they did, and he quit. Right?
I don't know what happened.
I'm just adding spice to it.
I don't know.
That would have made a great ending. Yeah. And then one day, he found his face on a marketing article. He said, "That's enough.
I'm out of here." Ripped off his apron and left.
All right, we're getting goofy now. It's very late. We're here. Hey, thank you so much for coming. We'll see y'all next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Bye, kids. It's my bedtime. Way past it.
Oh yeah, forget about that.
I want their leader brought here. I want him brought to me. I want the revolution crushed.